All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Workbench, your resource-rich weekly podcast and newsletter for local business owners. Super excited to be joined today by Austin Linney. He's a business consultant out here with me in Austin, Texas, doing a lot of good things around kind of business coaching, lifestyle, mindset. Really excited to dive into his learnings from working with various entrepreneurs and some of the things you could apply to your mindset and day to day as you build your businesses. Austin, we got coffee a couple weeks ago. Now we're putting the conversation on tape. Really appreciate you joining. How's your week going so far?
It's going good, man. I mean, what a name, Workbench. I love that. That's a great name. So I'm good, man. I tell people, somebody asked me how I was doing the other day. I said, well, I'm riding the wave of life. And sometimes I have a motorboat and sometimes I have a dinghy.
What is it, a motorboat or dinghy week for you?
Just ask me what day of the week it is and then
Yeah,
we'll decide. Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Yeah,
You know, you know what's interesting, right? Is because I'm an empathetic person. Sometimes uh, my clients' problems become my problems, right? Because I care so much. So if they're going through something, then I'm going through something, right? If ex-employees, we're dealing with some ex-employee issues, stuff like that. So, tip: make sure that your employee contracts are very sound.
mm,
Wait for it, and you actually have them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're getting so without divulging too much details with someone for people that may want to learn. There's an employee's kind of going
What?
south.
Well, what's interesting, right? And even in my own company, I bought. I think that we have a tendency to focus on sales and marketing because it's fun, it's easy, it's hip, it's exciting, right? But if I had to go back and start over again, I would make sure that the employee contracts, my insurance, like the handbooks, I would make sure those things are rock solid, because you never believe that those things are going to happen. But when they do go south, when there's no disparity, when they don't have an employee contract and all these things, and they can do whatever they can say because you have nothing to enforce, it creates a quite a headache.
Taking it back, you've been doing a lot of different things, Austin. I think most
Yeah.
recently we talked about you were in the Airbnb game for a little bit.
hmm
Today you're coaching other entrepreneurs. Before we got dive into details, mindset, take us a little bit through your process and your path as an entrepreneur, some of the things you've done in the past and what it is you're doing with your clients today.
Yeah, when I meet people, I met somebody out Saturday night and we were talking about life and everything. And, I was like, oh, I was in the music business. Like, I sold wine for 20 years. I do this. And she's like, wow, you've lived a lot of lives. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I have, I spent a lot of years in high end hotels and top restaurants around the country. The last, bulk of that year, the last 6 years was a bar manager, came up with cocktail programs, sold wine for 20 years. Then I worked in the music business for 3 years as a road manager within all that Texas country. And then eventually got into Airbnb, which led to a 7 year run in Airbnb hotels, taught people Airbnb. Prior to me getting into business, I was always personally coaching, mindset, addiction, I'm sober, all these things. Um, but I started reading about business and started always wanting to learn about it, and kind of fell in love with it. But also saw the writing on the wall with Airbnb. Just didn't like the direction the sector was going, and kind of I have a tendency to get out before it gets terrible. So kind of just poured myself into business, and the reason I enjoy business so much is there's never a problem not to fix. And then I'm obsessed with business stories. Like I'm obsessed with like why people do, and some of the clients that we coach are third generation family run businesses. Like the gravity of carrying on the family legacy. Like nobody talks about that subconscious push and pull against you. While you're trying to run a business, you're trying to step out of the shadow of the family. So I find all that human psychology, stuff so interesting.
For the Airbnb side, more of a broad topic, my thesis right now that I've been kind of thinking about is that I think that in person, analog, non digital experiences and activities and products and services are actually going to see like a big increase in value over the next 10 years as everything digital becomes so easy to replicate. Like, just as a simple example, like maybe movies will be way less valued than like a play. right? Because like you could if this VEO stuff with Google's real, and like you can just make the next Marvel movie at your house by typing out what you want to do, like maybe a play. So like what do you think, like do you think that's going to be the case? Like where do you see some of these more, as someone that was in real estate, Airbnb, travel, like live music, do you think those things are going to wane
So
in value or increase?
I went out to dinner Saturday night with a mentor, which is I'm a get to bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock kind of guy. So this is a big deal for me. So I went out with her to meet her husband. Wound up talking to the table next to us, who was a blast. Who wound up taking, inviting us out to a country concert, which I haven't been to in years. And you have a bar in downtown Austin that is slammed, just packed to the gills. Nobody has their phone out. Everybody's two stepping, and the band's just playing for like 2 hours straight. And I thought to myself, like, this is what we're going to be craving more of as we push forward,
Yeah.
right? And there is something to be said. This is really rare for an Airbnb guy who came up that way, but there is something that feels comfortable about a hotel, right? You got the front desk there; they're there 24/7. You understand that, so I think you're 100% right. I think what you and I were talking about it. I feel like a lot of the businesses, even newsletters, certain things, they're going hyper local now when we were very broad at first. So I think you're going to continue to see that trend continue.
For the coaching clients, Austin, you're working with entrepreneurs, real estate folks, different types of business people. What are some of the things that you're working on with your clients in terms of mindset, how they can approach the work, and things they can do to be better versions of themselves?
Well, I'm going to go extremely deep and then I'll go extremely broad and high first.
Sounds
I
good.
think the number one thing to understand is that 90% of the way that we behave with inside the functioning of a business is based on our childhood traumas. So, like, and what I mean by that is like, that doesn't, so like when you look at it from the outside in, you say, oh, this person doesn't want to do their job. And you say, no, they actually really care about their job. They just don't know how to do their job, you know, based on clear KPIs or the way they were treated in a previous job. And so they're bringing that baggage to this current role. And so the number one thing that you have to do is you have to get clear on like what their roles are. Like 90% of the time, what we do is we reassess all the roles. So like we'll come in, we'll look at everybody's skill set, we'll do an audit of that, and then we're reassigning or moving pieces around and saying you may have the right players on the field, but because of their childhood, because of the way they were raised, because of their previous job, because of what they're great at, you just might not have them in the right seat. And so you're shuffling the chairs on the deck, getting them in the right roles, but getting them in roles they can understand, right? And then you zoom up to, an owner, right? An owner is trusting a third party, whether they're vendors or suppliers, to give them the things that they need in order to operate a business properly. So the problem is 99% of the time we fire the marketing company right away, right? I mean, it's just, I'm just going on what I see. So the owner doesn't have access to his KPIs. They're running too many platforms and they have no proper data. So, we have to like clear all that up, get one channel of truth, make sure they're held accountable. So that's one. The next thing is that they don't truly understand the sales journey. So they don't understand like how a customer buys, where they come in from. They don't understand, why they're buying. They haven't told the story of their company, right? These are all great problems to have because you have leads, but when you fix the front end, the sales and marketing journey, then you could start getting the data you need to make the decisions based on, said next thing. But 9 times out of 10, nobody knows what their roles are, or they're doing too many roles. They don't know what the outcome is going to be, and they don't have the right data.
What's the biggest challenge that you see entrepreneurs facing in their internal world, mentally, emotionally, that most people, what's the biggest challenge you see folks face with their psychology in building their business?
Well, this is the number one thing I'm seeing right now that's driving me crazy is that entrepreneurs have too much of an ego. they think they've read enough self-help books to figure it out for themselves. And so they're arrogant about the change. Oh, my team needs to change. I don't need to change. I got it all figured out. I've listened to enough podcasts and books. No, you've done surface work. You haven't done real work. All right. And then the next thing is they're not clear on where they actually want to go. Do you want to sell in 3 years? Do you never want to sell? Like they think they do, but they don't even really know what they want. And if they gave up the game, then they would lose their purpose. But yet everybody tells them you got to sell. So you're just trying to get clear on where they're going and what they're doing and making sure that their goals are actually for them and not somebody else.
What is the difference in your mind between surface work and deep work? Initially, outside looking in, it sounds like reading a book around negotiation or some basic psychology, whereas the deep work might be looking into some of your childhood traumas or some deeper emotional issues that are playing out in the business world. For you, Austin, what do you see as the difference there? And what are some things people could think about for themselves in terms of maybe leaning into that deep work?
So a lot of people position themselves as I've got my goals and my morning routine dialed in, I'm good to go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like that's to me is like surface like accountability. But like true accountability is like what parts of me don't work anymore to take this company to 10 million. What aspects of my life and the way that it's positioned cannot allow me to delegate, or I'm, their anxiety written, but they got the routine on going on, so they've got the routine just perfect, where no anxiety drops in there, but that's not real life. And so I think that you have to be strong enough to stand in the middle of chaos, but be peaceful and clear with inside you.
Let's talk about sobriety, man. I think it's a super interesting topic. I do want to respect that there's different levels of sobriety. There's people, hey,
Sure.
I'm taking 30 days off from booze, and other people who are like, I have a crippling addiction. And those, I don't know if they're necessarily the same thing. Maybe it doesn't even matter. I just want to acknowledge that I think sobriety can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Me personally, I took a year off of alcohol after dealing with some mental health challenges that I felt were exacerbated by alcohol. And it was really amazing. It was hard. And you realize how dang inundated alcohol is into our daily lifestyles, and how much of me hanging out with certain people is just us getting drunk together. And so much I could say about that journey. But I do feel, and I don't think it's any secret now, that there's been this huge rise in people abstaining from alcohol, just being completely sober and abstaining from everything. I saw a clip on Twitter about Joe Rogan, of all people, stopping drinking and for 3 months and maybe never, like, it just seems like it's a big part of the zeitgeist. So just for you, like, it sounds like you've been in the sobriety world for a while. It seems kind of like trendy in a sense in the Silicon Valley and tech world to not drink. Like, just what's been your experience with sobriety and your reaction to seeing it as this, what feels like a big part of the zeitgeist at this moment in time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I can only share my own personal journey. I've been helped a lot of people get sober, but been sober 6.5 years. Alcohol is the vehicle to masking problems. It's not the problem. But yet as society, it's a front facing issue because it's in our face everywhere, right? You watch football on Saturdays, you're drinking. You're going on vacation, you're drinking. It's
Wedding,
at the
birthday.
bar, wedding. Everything that we do is based around alcohol. So removing that from your life, you're removing parts of yourself that you're only aware of, right? And so for me, I was so sick of being mediocrity, like living in mediocrity. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I was just like, it was like controlling behaviors. And at the point, I drank every day for 8 years straight. I'm not saying I got drunk every day, but I drank every day. It was so part of my subconscious behavior. And so when you decide to change that, you know, um, you're going to change friends, you're going to change your identity. A lot of things are going to leave you, but so much good comes in behind it. The way that you feel, the freedom in your thought process, the not feeling terrible the next day. Yeah, your friends are going to change, but I promise you, you're going to get more done. And what I find interesting, right, is you preferenced it in the beginning of saying there's different levels of addiction, different levels of sobriety. I 100% agree with you. But the problem is that a large portion of the people saying they don't have a problem are the ones that actually do have the problem. But yet they're using it to mask, diving into their work, or it's just because I'm stressed out at work, or so. Do you know how many times you start coaching somebody and you're coaching them to fix the mindset, and then like 3 weeks later they're like, oh yeah, so I'm addicted to this thing. It's like it's there, they know it, right? But they refuse to address it. And my question isn't, you have to stop forever. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement. That's an absolute statement. It's not even, we don't know. But like, could you do a month? Like, could you do a couple weeks? Like, could you do, 10 days? And like, just see how you feel. Like, that's all. That's how it was positioned to me 6.5 years ago. And then, 30 days turned into 6.5 years, and my entire life has changed. So,
Yeah, a lot to say there. In terms of like sobriety and not drinking, I do think it's such a part of just like, yeah, what's trendy right now. But in terms of the things I experienced, like you do go, it felt like a breakup or like a death, like because you
mhm.
really, I speaking for myself, like drinking was such a part of my identity, playing sports growing up, playing sports in college, getting drunk on the weekends, like it was just so integral to me and my world that like when you stop, you're like, oh wow, these little parts of me and these little relationships I have are dying because the oxygen for them was going out and boozing. And so like that was unexpected. Like it does feel like a little sad. You're like, oh, like yeah, no, I definitely felt like shit when I used to go do that, but like it was still fun to go get drunk with my friends. Like there,
I
I think
mean, there's
it's
nothing
important to
better than
acknowledge that.
there's nothing better than being a degenerate. Like,
Right, like
dude,
it's a good time.
dude,
That's why people do it. I
dude,
mean,
it's a great time,
is the
dude.
juice worth the squeeze? No, but
So I relate it the closest to fasting. Okay, I
yeah,
love fasting. Right.
yeah.
Right now I'm on. I got this from a group I'm in. The leader of the group. I'm doing rolling 24-hour fast.
Whoa.
So I eat for 24 hours. I roll, and I do. So I've been doing it for almost 7 days. I feel absolutely amazing. Right. But one of the things, and I've done 4 days and 3 days, and also, but one of the things that is so mind blowing is the subconscious behaviors and what we tell ourselves eating wise. And I find
That's a
booze to
big
be
one.
very
Foods, yeah,
I
yeah.
find food and booze to be very similar, because we've conditioned ourselves to eat breakfast in the morning, eat lunch, these perfect times. But like, who put those times? And like, if you
General
breathe,
Mills.
yeah, if you breathe through it, like, you're good, right? So for me, my Mount Everest for the booze was going on my first vacation ever and not drinking. Once I did that for 8 days, I knew I would never drink again. That was my Mount Everest. I was like, if I can go this vacation and I can have fun and I can not booze, then I'm good. And once I got back, I never looked back. And so it's those moments in time where you go to your first wedding and you say, you know what, I'm just going to have sparkling water. Now let it be real. I was drinking like 8 sparkling waters a day when I quit. Let's not let's
Yeah,
not say it was like
yeah,
easy or anything. Like,
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, but slowly those got down and stuff like that. But I lost 70 pounds. I mean, so many things. And for me, they ask me all the time, like, would you drink again? And I don't have an answer for that, but I don't know why I would, because there's so many positives on the other side. I don't really see the want to even attempt it or try.
Yeah, that's another tricky thing with not drinking, man, is like, the potential of letting it back into your world because you do go long enough without it. And like, I don't know, just speaking for myself, I did feel a certain problem. Like, yeah, I could definitely go have a glass of wine at this wedding and it not be a big deal. But then you try that, and then next thing you know, 3 weeks later, it's 17 beers on a Friday night. And so it's like, how do you yeah, it's tough because you mentally are like, I definitely could drink again and it not be a big deal, but maybe it will be a big deal. And you think about it, and you go back and forth. I guess for you and yourself, and maybe people you work with, like, how do you guys approach the idea of uh, entering alcohol into your life?
Well, the thing that I never do is I never tell people what to do.
Yeah,
That I give people guidance. I think that's
yeah,
super important. But by making different decisions, I'll just speak from my experience.
yeah.
And I shared this once on Twitter and X, and I probably should share it again. About 3 months in, I had gone like 90 days, and I really wanted to drink again. I was visiting one of my buddies who's a big time trader for the University of Texas Endowment Fund. We've known
Nice.
each other forever, and we love talking business. And I was just getting into business at this point. Like, I was just starting my Airbnb business across the country. And I said, you know what? I've done 90 days. I've done, good enough. I feel proud about the shift I've changed. I'm going to go buy a bottle. So we were at Costco. I bought a bottle. And we got back to his place and we got to talking about business. And I got so excited talking about next steps that we talked for 4 hours and that bottle never got open. And that bottle still sits in his house in his wine cellar. Uh, and for me, that was my mark to saying I found something more exciting than getting drunk.
Mm.
And I'm just going to go chase that. And that's the way I felt ever since then.
I remember when I first stopped drinking. This was like, it actually was like a couple months before COVID and then through COVID, so about 5 years ago now. But I remember I saw a video with Jordan Peterson and Theo Vaughn, of all people, funny enough. And Jordan Peterson was like, the thing that makes not drinking easy is when you have something that's like so much more exciting and worth waking up for that, drinking alcohol seems silly. Like for me, it's like, oh, I'm building this business, I have a startup, I have a young daughter. Like those things are so meaningful and so impactful that like I don't want to impinge on them and damage them by feeling hungover the next day. And so like for me, it was like, oh, if I do feel compelled to drink, it's probably because I don't have much else going on that's so much more exciting than going out and getting drunk with friends. So I thought that was a big learning.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'd be really interested to see, right? Let's take the trip down a different conversation, but in the same vein. AI is making everything more efficient, right? Which
Yep.
is great. Here's the problem. Now people have more time.
Yeah.
So now you're going to get bored. So now problem is when you get bored, you do dumb shit. Like, I'm sorry. You tweak the business that doesn't need tweaking. You micromanage the salesperson that doesn't need micromanaging. So like there's going to be people that have a successful business that are going to have to go start another business just so they won't mess up their current business.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting conversation on the backside of efficiency, which is amazing. But you also have to not F up the flow of your current business if you're growing, right? And then there's the need to feel like you're not growing fast enough when you put yourself up against other companies. And so it's this push and pull where you really have to stay disciplined and your vision of what you want your company to be to not mess with what you're already doing great.
Idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Correct. So you better pick up a hobby. Go play guitar or something.
On the mindset side for entrepreneurs, I think that's an interesting topic. Like, I think as entrepreneurs, we're very action oriented. We kind of are always ready to take action, ready to do the next thing. How do you talk with your clients about how sometimes the best thing to do for a certain situation or problem or issue is nothing? That's something I
Yes.
struggle with. How do you talk through that with your clients?
So let's say you got to make a really big decision, like monetarily wise, you got to fire somebody or whatever. You got to pivot. Some massive decision. You're moving. I say 48 hours, no decision. You're not allowed to make it. Like let all the time, let's get all the information, because I know in my early 20s, I would make a decision based off on like a quarter of the information. And I think we do that a lot of times as business people. We want to be quick, we want to be efficient, but we don't have the full picture. And so the ability, because what's crazy is that you could wait 48 hours and you could not even want to make that decision anymore. And so you have to be careful when you're making these massive decisions that you give your mind and the time a place to stop. And it's very hard. It's extremely hard, but I think it's the right thing to do, because what's underlying your need to make that decision very quickly is a subconscious anxiety that you're going to make the wrong one. So let me go ahead and just get it over with.
Yeah.
But then now you're compounding the problem.
It's one of the hardest things to do, man. I think a similar thing is like when you want to fire off like a reactive email to something that pisses you off, and it's like hard in that moment. I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older to say like, I will have I'll bring such a different energy to this email if I literally just wait an hour. Like if I just don't give in to that immediate reactionary impulse, I know I'll see it so much differently. ChatGPT has been helpful for that too. I'll paste the email in there and be like, write a thoughtful and kind reply to this email. But with like big decisions, yeah, it's hard. And because speed is so important, and it is a new company, it's one of your few advantages. But having the discipline is like, I mean, it goes, there are truisms for a reason, like sleeping on it actually does have such a dang big impact. And just having that discipline to say, okay, this is one of those decisions I have rushed into in the past. I could give into this anxiety. I could make a rushy decision here. Let me just wait till tomorrow to make a decision on it has had a big impact for me.
And I'm not, and this is not me like tooting my own horn because I'm not a self promoter. I just don't live by that, right? I provide value to others and we go. But that's one of the benefits of having a coach or a business consultant, right? That is like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about this
Yeah.
situation? It's a second opinion. So, because that's the problem, is what I find is that most entrepreneurs, especially people that are building, if they only have one co founder, dude, they're lonely and they don't have anybody to talk to. And this crazy idea they have in their head, makes them think that they don't know what they're talking about and had to have that sounding board. So if you're somebody out there, you need to get a coach, you need to get a consultant, you need to join a group, you need to get a part of a
Mhm.
tribe, a men's group, an entrepreneurship group, whatever it is. I promise you that you're going to see, extreme benefits from it.
We just part of a startup accelerator, and today we had our first mastermind with some of our classmates or cohort fellow companies, and yeah, just having a third party look at something. It's when your friend asks you for advice, you always know the exact right thing to do, and just like off the cuff, you just know exactly what to say. But when it's your own problem, it's so hard. It's the same thing. Just that perspective, that outside third party is so valuable. Talking about business coaching, it's something that it's funny because I think as a newer, scrappier entrepreneur, it seems like a luxury. However, the more successful people I know, a lot of them do sing the praises of having a coach. What's your perspective on the value of a coach, why it's important? You talked about it a little bit, but like you've worked with so many entrepreneurs, where do you see coaching having the biggest impact?
Well, I think it's in the biggest impact of somebody to lean on. You don't feel alone, but also an understanding of like, am I crazy? Like
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight that again because this thing that we're doing is so wild. Starting something from scratch or buying an existing business and growing it, and so you need like an internal validation. But one of the things that I think is the kind of backbone of like good business consulting and coaching is like massive accountability with like pressed goals. And what I mean by that is like the sales team that comes to me with a $2 million sales goal, I'm telling them right away it's 2.75
Yeah.
million. And they're like, whoa, hold on. They're like, what? And so we walked them through how they could make it happen. And they're like, oh, that's totally doable. And I'm like, yeah. And wouldn't that change like your life and the business life? And so like just that overemphasize. But one of the things that we made very important, this is, I want to hammer this home because it's very important to me. We made a promise that we would only work with clients that wanted to affect their personal lives too, and not just the revenue. Like you have to be willing to get healthier. You have to be willing to be a better father, a better husband. Like all aspects of your life, you have to explore that because that's only going to jump down into your business and create a better business when you are more connected, healthy with your family, with your health. And so I think it's a whole approach, which means basically like the health of your business, your revenue wise, and the health of your personal life. I think go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's another big one. Just not running yourself ragged. You need to get sleep, eat well. Austin, anything we didn't get to here that you wanted to cover today?
I want to share something that I
Yeah,
think is changing, and I think your kind of thing. You started a business,
I
right?
did.
And this is my message to everybody out there. I think for the last like 10 years, 8 years, the ETA drum has been beating. Buy a business, buy a business, buy a business, buy a business.
Yeah.
The multiples are insane right now, and they're for whatever reason not coming down. If you've been sitting on the sidelines and searching for a business, start one. I'm seeing so much success from people that are starting businesses. You have full control, no debt, no investors. And now with AI and the way that we can build stuff, I think there's going to be a huge push over the next 10 to 15 years back to the I built a business phase. And I'm very excited about it because it's entirely different energy. It's a bonfire, excitable, go get it energy. And buying an existing business is like trying to keep the Titanic on its course. It's a whole different can of worms. And so I'm excited for this phase. So if you're sitting on the sidelines, this is my message to you to just start that business, no matter how small or big it is, and see where it goes.
Love it. Austin, for people that want to connect with you, your business, social, website, where can folks find you?
So you go to austinlinney.com, Linney, and you can hit me up on Twitter or X at Austin Linney.
Austin, thanks for coming on, man. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you around Austin. All right.
All right. Thank you, my man.